in the country Colombia in South America. Now, we've explored various different countries already in the series. Today we're speaking about Colombia in South America. We've spoken about probably about another dozen countries already, 12 countries already. So I thought it's a special time period, a very, very interesting topic to talk about. Now, the history of the Jews in Colombia begins, I think, in the Spanish colonial period with arrival of the first Jews during the Spanish colonization of the Americas, respectively. I think, very interesting. Let's just say the new Christians, or the Moranos, they would flee the Iberian Peninsula to escape persecution and seek religious freedom during the 16th and 17th centuries, respectively. It's estimated that some reached northern areas of Colombia, which at the time was also known as New Granada. Most, if not all, of these people will end up assimilating into Colombian society. Now, some, I think, would end up practicing Jewish rituals and family traditions at that point in time. In the 18th century, practicing Spanish and Portuguese Jews came from Jamaica and Curaçao, where they had flourished under English and Dutch right at that point in time. So we've spoken about that on various occasions. I would recommend everyone to watch the video we recorded on the history of the Jews from the Netherlands. We did an excellent article at one stage in time where we explored the history of that, and I think we did brush on South America, the connection of Jamaica and so on and so forth within regards to that. So that's very, very interesting. So they would flourish over. These Jews would start practicing their religion openly in Colombia at the end of the 18th century. Although it was not officially legal to do so, given the establishment of the Catholic Church, after independence, Judaism was recognized as a legal religion, and the government granted the Jews land for a cemetery. Very interesting enough. Many Jews would actually come, I think, to during the 18th and 19th centuries, and they would achieve prominent positions in Colombia, respectively, in society. Some would marry local women and felt they had to abandon and diminish their Jewish identity. Obviously, that's not a great thing spiritually because they lost their Judaism, so that's something we will, or none of us will actually want to hear in of itself, but that's a historical fact listed by Wikipedia here. Apparently, this would include people like George Isaacs, of English Jewish ancestry. He was an industrialist, James Martin Eder, who would, I think, end up adopting a more Christian name of Santiago Eder when he translated his name to Spanish. I think he was actually born into a Latvian Jewish community, as well as the D. Lima, Salazar, Espinosa, Arias, Ramirez, Nunez, Lindo, Tafur, Lozano, Lerma, Vinasco, De Castro, Perez, and Lobo families. They were of, I think, Antillean Sephardim. I happen to be. These persons and the families, I think those families itself would settle in the Cacao Valley region of Colombia over there. They had continued to be influential members of society in various cities, such as in Cali, in Palmyra, and in Tuluá. Over the generations, most of their descendants, unfortunately, would leave, I think, Judaism and end up becoming raised as secular Christians over here. I think it was during the early part of the 20th century, numerous Sephardic Jewish immigrants came from Greece, from Turkey, North Africa, and Syria. And they would, let's say, shortly after, Jewish immigrants began to arrive from Eastern Europe also. There was a wave of Ashkenazi immigrants that came, obviously, at the time period of the rise of Nazism in 1933, I think at that point in time. And imposition of anti-Semitic laws and practices followed by as many as 17,000 German Jews over here. Now, from 1939 until the end of the Second World War, immigration, let's just say, was put into a halt by anti-immigrant feelings in the country and restrictions on immigration from Germany, which was very interesting. Now, everyone that's tuning in at the moment live, thanks for fantastic comments over here from an old friend, and please subscribe to the channel now. We're doing a historic video on the history of the Jews from Colombia in South America. Very interesting, very rare to find out. So please subscribe to the channel now, friends, over here, everyone that's watching over here. And we're exploring the history over here. Very rare to find videos on this over here. Okay, so we talked about the wave of Jews from Sephardic and Ashkenazic countries. Now, Colombia asked Germans who were on the US blacklist to leave, and they allowed Jewish refugees in the country illegally to stay. I think it was a president of the name, Laureano Gomez. He actively supported and helped the Jewish community through this troubling time period. The Jewish population increased dramatically in the 1950s and 1960s, and institutions such as synagogues, schools, social clubs were established throughout the largest cities in the country. There was a rabbi of the name Rabbi Eliezer Reutzblatt. He was the first rabbi to arrive in Colombia in 1946 and served as the first Ashkenazic chief rabbi over there. In the 1950s, a Sephardic Jewish community originating especially from Syria, from Turkey, from Egypt, was created with Rabbi David Shurabani serving as a Spanish chief rabbi over here. Now we're going to speak about Rabbi David Shurabani now. Everyone that's watching live at the moment, please subscribe to the channel. We've got so much great content on this platform, on this website, so please subscribe now. We're trying to get 7,500 subscribers by the end of the week, and we're speaking all about the history of the Jewish community in Colombia in South America. Now let's speak about Rabbi David Shurabani, who was a famous Sephardic rabbi in Colombia in South America. He was born in August 1920. He passed away in August 1985, 6th of August there. He was the chief rabbi of Colombia, and I think he was a Sephardic chief rabbi of Colombia from the early 1950s to 1978. So he's a pivotal figure in Colombian Jewry, without a doubt, in history. He actually, I think following his time period, he would be in Colombia. He would move to Miami, Florida, United States of America. He passed away, I think, in Miami in 1985. He was 64 years of age. He was actually born in Jerusalem in 1920. And he actually was a son of the famous Rabbi Yoshua Shurabani. His mother was Rabbanit Masuda Shurabani in of itself. Now, he was born in Jerusalem in mandatory Palestine. We're talking about 105 years ago. And his father was a Mukubal, a famous Kabbalist. And the Shurabani family actually originated from Iraq and had a long line of prominent great rabbinic figures. I think Rabbi David's parents immigrated to Jerusalem in Ottoman Syria from Baghdad in 1903. That's interesting. Rav David Shurabani, would actually be one of the earliest students in the famous Yeshivat Porat Yosef and would receive a rabbinic ordination from the famous Chazon Ish. Now, how did Rabbi David Shurabani end up going to Bogota in Colombia? I think it was in 1952. There was a famous philanthropist who we've spoken about before, someone named Ovadia Shayo. I think he was a rabbi also. He visited the Yeshivat Porat Yosef in Israel. And Rabbi Ben Zion Meir Hai Uziel, who would later on become the chief rabbi of Israel between 1948 and 1953, would send rabbi to his congregation in Colombia. Rabbi Ben Zion would actually recommend Rabbi David Shurabani to become the chief rabbi of Colombia, and he would be. And his seat was the city of Bogota. Now, in Colombia, he established Talmud Torah, over there, a branch of Bnei Akiva, a Zionistic organization. He would serve as the president of the World Hebrew Alliance over there, and was active in the Zionistic organization, and would serve as a lecturer in the National University of Colombia in the Hebrew department over there. Very, very interesting enough. And after a period, he was offered the rabbinate in the city of Tel Aviv. Rabbi David refused the offer. Rabbi Shurabani was connected with great rabbinic leaders of the world at that point in time, including the famous Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Rabbi Shurabani served as support to the hostages held during the 1980 Dominican Republic Embassy siege in Bogota in 1980 by M19 guerrillas at that stage in time. Now, he would write various different publications. Remember, we recorded a video about Rabbi David Shurabani a few months ago. I think he published a Haggadah for the Jewish festival of Pesach, containing Hebrew, Spanish and English. The Haggadah, I think, was published in 1960 and commissioned artwork from the Holocaust survivor and Colombian cartoonist Peter Aldo will very much be featured over here. Now, friends, anyone tuning in, we're exploring the history of the South American country Colombia over here. What happened, the great rabbis, the great history with regards to it. So, friends, everyone tuning into our community, subscribe now to our channel, please. We're nearing 7,500 subscribers, so please join our community here and subscribe. It's a fantastic channel over here. It's all for free over here. Okay, let's explore a bit about Rabbi David Shurabani's father, how he got his great wisdom and became the chief rabbi. He was imbued by Rabbi Yoshua Shurabani, his father, who was Kabbalist in Jerusalem. He himself, Rabbi Yoshua, was born in Baghdad. I think he came from great rabbinic family. Rav Yitzchak and Rabbanit Aziza Shurabani. Rav Yoshua was so great, he studied under Chacham Yosef Chaim, the famous Ben Ish Chai, and Rabbi Shurabani became the teacher of Rabbi David Chaim, the grandson of the Ben Ish Chai. Interesting enough. Now, as we said before, Rabbi David Shurabani would move to Israel along with his wife, Rabbanit Masuda, and he would teach in Yeshivat Shoshanim LeDavid in the Bukharian quarter. At that point in time, there would be the establishment of Yeshivat Porat Yosef, and he would teach over there. He was one of the founding teachers over there. And he studied famously alongside Rabbi Salman Eliyahu, who was would actually help him publish his book called Keren Shlomo, and very interesting enough. And he studied Talmud, the Gemara, with Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer, also popularly known as Kaf HaChaim, the great Torah work that he did. Rabbi Yoshua Shurabani passed away on December the 16th in 1972, 11th of Tevet, I think it was Sisilura. I was buried in Har Zaytim. Very, very interesting enough, and many commemorations were actually put under him in of itself. So, okay, so we went on a bit of a tangent over here. We were speaking about the chief rabbi, who was about 26 years, Rabbi David Shurabani. Let's continue now over here, now talking more within regards to the country of Colombia. Now, it's actually interesting. Jewish ancestry in the Andean regions. Now, in the department of Antioquia, as well as the greater Pesa regions, some families hold traditions and oral accounts of Jewish descent. In this population, Y-DNA genetic analysis has shown an origin of male founders predominantly from southern Spain, but also suggests that a fraction came from northern Iberia, that some possibly had Sephardic origin. Medellin has a tradition of the Marandan, let's just say, where unfortunately the Davar Acher, also known as the treif animal, the pig, was butchered and consumed and slaughtered on the streets of every neighborhood each Christmas over there. This custom had been interpreted as an annual affirmation of the rejection of Jewish law. Unfortunately, we see this took place. It was known that some Sephardic, Spanish Portuguese, New Christian Sephardic Jewish ancestry fled the Cartagena de Indias Inquisition and took refuge at that point in time in Antiochian mountains during the 16th and 17th century. We mentioned about Jorge Isaacs and Miguel Angel or Suras. They had some sort of Jewish ancestry, and there was other people, I think, also. Some scholars will state that the presence of Sephardic Jews among the ancestors of Pesas is a fact, but it does not mean that all Pesas descend from them. Not that it is an only or predominant element among those that do so, as is proven by Pesas descent from other groups like Basques, Extremandas, and Aduliancians, respectively, over here. Now, there was a great influence, I should say, of Sephardic Jews in Colombia, and it's very, very significant. Like in every country, the Jewish community would really, really change the fabric of the various countries and bring about huge blessings, let's just say, respectively. The influence of the Sephardic Jews in Colombia, I think, was significant. It has been established that a considerable proportion of the Colombian population has Sephardic ancestry. In particular, as we said before, studies shown that a notable percentage of Antioquans are descended from Sephardic Jews. However, this heritage is not necessarily confined to Antioquia alone. It's estimated that around 10% of the Colombian population carries Jewish DNA, especially, I think, in Andes regions, indicating a widespread of Sephardic influence throughout the country. Now, everyone tuning in, we are exploring the history of the South American country, Colombia, over here, in a special edition over here. We have fantastic content on this channel, tons of videos we're doing, so please, friends, if you're watching live, subscribe now to the channel. We're trying to get to 7,500 subscribers. We've got amazing content here, so please subscribe, and exploring the beauty of Jewish wisdom over here. And let's talk about the modern community over here before we speak about the synagogues. The modern community, as of the 21st century, approximately 14,700 Jews live in Colombia. I don't know if that's the current amount, but that was quite of recent times. Most of them are concentrated in Bogota, with about 6,000 members, and Cali, with about 3,500 members. New communities have sprung up in Barranquilla and in Medellin. Very few Jews practice religious observance. Among those who do, the majority, obviously, I think, are seen as Orthodox. I think there's German communities in Bogota and in Cali that preserve a lot of the Jewish traditions there also. Now, it's interesting, the smaller communities are found also in Cartagena and in the island of San Andres. There are approximately 18 official synagogues throughout the country. I don't know if this is currently, but there was at recent times. In Bogota, there's Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and German Jews, each run their own religious and cultural institutions. It's also interesting, the Confederación de Asociaciones Judías de Colombia is actually located in Bogota, and it's known as a central organization that coordinates Jews and Jewish institutions in Colombia. The smaller communities, I think, found in Cartagena and in the island of San Andres. Very interesting enough. So that's interesting. Now, in the new millennium, after years of study, a group of Colombians with Jewish ancestry formally converted to Judaism in order to be accepted as Jews according to rabbinical interpretation of the halakha. That's also reported over here. So, we spoke about David Shurabani also before, with in regards to his how he was a chief rabbi for 26 years. So we're not going to speak much more about him. But Rabbi, I think, just to go back to Rabbi David Shurabani, there was a quote from Rabbi Chai Uziel, the Benzion Chai Uziel, who was a chief rabbi over here, where he demonstrates how great Rabbi David Shurabani was. Just to go back, because I forgot to mention it. Rab Nichbad Zeh, Echad Rabbanim Hamuvahkim B'Yerushalayim B'Yisrael. Just attesting to the greatness of the rabbi, how it was outstanding, especially in Jerusalem and in Israel. With regards to Talmud Bavli, his expertise, with regards to the Talmudic commentators, he's got a very good way of educating. Good heart. And that's how he does. It's actually interesting. I think, actually, just going back to Rabbi David Shurabani, it says over here, Harav Reuven Katz, who was also another famous rabbi at that point in time, Kataf Afu Debrim Domin, Musab Kolev, Nefesh Lekol Kudshe Ha'uma, Osek B'tzurchei Sibur, Hamuna, B'koach Deboratav Shechonen Bo, Obechino, הנלבב שמשך לכל אדם מצליח להשפיע על רבים ישראל שלא ייסרו מדרכי אבותיהם. So seemingly this great rabbi over here was very close with many other great rabbis, especially Rabbi Benzion Chai Uziel, Rabbi Reuven Katz, who was from an Ashkenazi rabbi. Also the famous Rabbi Chizkiah Shabtai would also speak at the highest levels with regards to the chief rabbi of Colombia, Rabbi David Shurabani, in of itself. So that's very interesting. So I mentioned about him before. Let's explore. We're going to explore some of the synagogues of Colombia in a minute. Now, there's differing opinions of how many people actually live in Colombia. I'm actually hearing over here. We talked about the different communities over here. One opinion says 2,100 people live in Colombia, which is much smaller than I mentioned about a few minutes ago over there. The community in Colombia, I think one of the organizing bodies over there is Confederación de Comunidades Judías de Colombia, CCJC, the Colombian affiliate of the World Jewish Congress over there. That's something to point out. Let's explore a few of the synagogues in Colombia. Now, anyone that's tuning in over here, we are exploring the history of the South American country, Colombia. So please, everyone watching live, subscribe now to the channel. We're trying to get to 7,500 subscribers by just before Shabbat. Let's see if we can do it. So please subscribe now to the channel. We've got amazing Jewish wisdom content here, and Israel content over here, not to be missed. So please subscribe. Let's talk about the synagogues here in Colombia. And the first synagogue we're going to speak about is the Shaarei Tzedek synagogue, also known as Synagogue Shaarei Tzedek in Spanish. It's an Orthodox Jewish congregation and a synagogue. It's located in Barranquilla in Colombia, and it was established by Sephardic Jewish immigrants in the beginning of the 20th century. It's obviously a Sephardic synagogue in of itself. I think currently it's active, if I'm not mistaken. That's first synagogue. Another synagogue, the Synagogue Bet El. This was another famous synagogue, once again also in Barranquilla. Also, I think it's more a modern Orthodox synagogue, let's just say, in of its own right. I think the architect of this synagogue happened to be someone named Roberto Acosta Madiedo. I think it holds religious services on a daily basis, and obviously all the Chagim on Shabbat, respectively. And I think it was built in the year 1964. We're talking about 61 years ago. Another synagogue in Colombia is a famous Adat Yisrael synagogue. I think it's the largest synagogue actually in Bogota. It's located at Carrera Septima Avenida, I think, and it was built between 1960s, and it would finally be inaugurated in the year 1972. And I think the architect was actually someone named Bruno Violi, has a very modernist architectural style to the synagogue, respectively. So that's very interesting. I think in the 1970s it was, just go on the history of it, the Jewish community of Bogota reached its moment of greatest expansion. There was more than 15,000 people inside the city, Jewish people in the city. The community even managed to have the intersection of the 94th Street and the 10th Avenue named after the State of Israel, and placed a stone monument with a menorah lamp over here. And let's just say at that point in time, at the beginning of the road, the synagogue is a main meeting point for the approximately 5,000 Jews of Chapinero. Very, very interesting. So we're talking about anyone tuning in at the moment. Once again, we're exploring the history of the Jewish country, Jewish community of Colombia. So please, everyone joining live at the moment, we've got 65 people here. Subscribe to the channel, friends, over here, and join our community. We're coming near to 7,500 subscribers, so please subscribe and hit the like button. So now we're exploring the synagogues in the country, Colombia, South America. Another synagogue is a Montefiore Israeli Association synagogue. Remember, Sir Moses Montefiore was a famous philanthropist from England, and built so much with his vast wealth, many different Jewish synagogues over there. And the Montefiore Israeli Association, I'm not too sure if this was a strong Orthodox community itself. I think Wikipedia will list it as a conservative one, but I'm not sure if they mean it as a conservative, more Orthodox synagogue, or conservative itself. So if anyone knows more, please let me know, give me some clarity on that one. But I think it was actually built in the year 1938 by German-speaking Jews, respectively, over here. Once again, it's located in Bogota, respectively. I think it was established as a religious, cultural and social center for German-speaking Jews in Bogota. Now, over the time period, the community attracted Jewish people from diverse backgrounds, becoming a diverse and inclusive congregation. Come on, 1963, it was, I think, AIM affiliated itself. I think would then, at that stage in time, would then affiliate itself with the conservative movement during the World Council of Synagogues. So, interesting enough, seemingly originally was probably an Orthodox synagogue, and needs confirmation, but then I think it will branch out towards conservatism. Remember, we're an Orthodox channel here, and we just really try and speak about Orthodox rabbis here, but this is a historical class, so we're including this here, over here. I think the original headquarters was on the CRA 20, 3754 site of the current National Theatre, and then new headquarters will come about in Carrera, Bogota, Colombia. Now, I think the current rabbi there is of Chilean origin, so I don't know if it's still connected to the conservative movement or not. So if anyone knows, please let me know over here. Okay, friends, now we're talking about another synagogue. Friends, anyone watching live, we've got 66 people. Please subscribe to the channel. Now, we've got nearly 7,500 subscribers. Let's try and get to that by the end of the week over here. So now another synagogue is the Magen Ovadia synagogue in Colombia. What was that? That also was based in Bogota, located, I think, on 79th Street, on the 9th and 11th Avenues. It was once again built by the Sephardic Jewish community of Bogota. Very, very interesting enough. And I think it was opened actually on June the 29th in the year 1952. Now, apparently the architect was Bruno Violi of this. Now, it's actually interesting. They state over here just an article with regards to, obviously, reminding how the Sephardic Jewish congregation left the Iberian Peninsula at the end of the 15th century. Many emigrated, let's just say, to territories in Hispanic America, including, let's just say, Colombia. Now, during the 20th century, a large number of Sephardic Jewish immigrants from the Ottoman Empire obviously settled in Colombia, along with other communities of Ashkenazic origin, mainly from Ukraine and Germany. There was arrival of more families that would actually come, I think, from Ukraine and Germany. And I think because of the growth of Bogota at that one time, it was important, I think, to hire a rabbi for its organization. In 1933, legal status was obtained, establishing itself as Sephardic Hebrew community of Bogota. Now, it was this name, this same community together, with donations from Jews in the city, such as those famous businessmen, philanthropists, and then Morris Goods, who I think in 1946 bought a lot in the north of the city, would start the construction of a synagogue, which was ready come the year 1952, interestingly enough. The construction was carried out by the Italian engineer Bruno Violo. Later, a Talmud Torah, a Jewish school, was built adjacently, reported over. I think in 2016 the synagogue was visited in a formal a ceremony by the President of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos. Very, very interesting itself. So who were the chief rabbis of Colombia? We speak a lot on this channel with regards to histories of the great rabbis of yesteryear. So we're going to explore who are the chief rabbis of Colombia, respectively, the country. So anyone tuning in once again live, please subscribe to the channel. We've got 68 people live. Now, even if a few of you subscribe to the channel, we're nearing 7,500 subscribers. So let's get to that level before Shabbat at the moment. But we have great content on this channel, great short clips. We tour all over Israel. We do mini clips looking at the sites of Israel, Jewish wisdom, great Jewish personalities and great Jewish history. So to subscribe is a huge, huge feat over here. So who are I think three Ashkenazic chief rabbis of note. Rabbi Eliezer Paltiel Reuterblatt, I think he was the chief rabbi between 1946 and 1947. Rabbi Chaim Menachem Ben Sion Blumenkrantz, he was in the early 1950s, or I don't know, some stage in the 1950s. I don't know if that overlapped with Rabbi Reuterblatt's premiership. Also, Rabbi Alfredo Goldschmidt, 1974 to present, over here. So who was Rabbi Alfredo Goldschmidt? Let's speak about him for a minute. I think he was born actually on August the 4th, 1945. So when he took his role, he was still in his late 20s. He would become the chief rabbi of Colombia, or Gran Rabbino, as they say over there. There's differing opinions when he actually entered office. So one place actually says of it, 1974, but another place says that he was appointed in 1991. I'm not sure which capacity or which role. He was actually, I think himself, he was born in Buenos Aires. He's currently about 80 years of age, I think. He had two sons and two daughters and a son. I think he would learn actually in the yeshiva of Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch in the City College of New York, respectively. I don't think I'm not sure if Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch was alive at that point in time. Born in Buenos Aires in Argentina, he actually came from German Jewish immigrants. A couple of the name Herman and Els Goldschmidt. He would study in New York in the yeshiva, as we said before, of Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, which we pointed out before. He would attain a degree in psychology at the City College of New York. He would further studies and become a rabbi in the United States. He would learn in the famous Yeshiva Yisrael in Baltimore, I think between the years 1962 to 1968. He would end up returning to Argentina as the director of a religious school, Colegio Integro Rabino Yosef Caro, it was called. And he would serve there for, I think, 7 years. Now in Colombia, I think the Jewish community in 1973 of Bogota was looking for a rabbi at that point in time. Come up February 1974, he became the rabbi of the Centro Israelite de Bogota, and I think he continued to serve. In 1991, he was officially acknowledged as a chief rabbi by the Colombian government. So maybe he was a chief rabbi in an unofficial position from 1974, let's just say. Rabbi Goldschmidt had also been active rabbi at a local Jewish school in Bogota, Colegio Colombo Hebreo, it's also called as. He was very active with the Colombian youth and was an integral part, let's just say, of the Zionist youth movement of Kinneret. Since the outset of his tenure, Rabbi Goldschmidt had maintained important interfaith relations with religious leaders of all faiths from around Colombia. Rabbi Goldschmidt also played an integral role in assisting numerous Colombian communities who rediscovered, let's just say, their long-lost Jewish heritage, return to Judaism, and seek conversion over here. Now, it's interesting. I don't know, it could be that he's still a rabbi at the moment in Colombia at present because he's still alive, so he could still be working in official capacity in these jobs. He was being involved in kashrut efforts in Colombia. He taught numerous Torah classes and engaged in singing and music through the use of accordion, respectively. Now, he would also be awarded and recognized from many, many different places. Let's say, for example, Robert Goldschmidt was awarded a prize for exemplary educator of the diaspora from the World Council of Torah Education in the year 2021, 4 years ago. He received his award in Jerusalem on October 23rd in 2022. And at that point in time, there was the presence of the Rishon LeZion, Sephardic chief rabbi of Jerusalem, famous rabbi, Rabbi Shlomo Moshe Amar, and the mayor of Jerusalem, the famous Moshe Leon, at that point in time. So that's something we have to point out within regards to him. Now, anyone tuning in live, we're exploring the history of the South American country Colombia over here. We're exploring the history of the synagogues, the rabbis, the community itself, what the community structure was like, and so on and so forth. So please, friends over here, subscribe to the channel at the moment. We're nearing 7,500 subscribers, so please join. We want to get to that figure of subscribers by before Shabbat. So let's see if we can get to there. So everyone tuning in live, all 113 people, please subscribe now. Now, who were the Sephardic chief rabbis of Colombia? I think from 1948 to the early 1950s was a rabbi named Rabbi Miguel Atias. And as we mentioned before, I think from 1952 to 1978 was a famous Rabbi David Shurabani. Then from 1978 to 1986 was Rabbi Yehuda Ben Amu. Then from 1986 to 2000 was another famous rabbi, Rabbi Yehuda Ari Azankot. Come on, 2000 to around 2010 was Rabbi Shlomo Meir El Harar and Rabbi Abi Amsalem from 2010, I think, till December 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if there's currently, or who is the current chief rabbi, Sephardi chief rabbi of Colombia, but I think there's also a Chabad rabbi, Rabbi Yoshua Rosenfeld from 1980, and it could be still the rabbi over there, respectively, which is very, very interesting. And so that's what we've got to point out also. Let's speak a bit with regards to Rabbi Yehuda Ben Amu, I think, who was the chief rabbi at one stage in time in Colombia. He was himself born, I think, in Spain in 1961. Now, he would graduate, I believe, from the high school over there in Spain. It happens to have been. And very, very interesting. So he would graduate, I think, from there. And he began his studies in rabbinical studies in England at a famous yeshiva in Sunderland. In 1966, he relocated to study in the high rabbinical college at Kollel. Now, once again, I might have made a mistake. He probably wasn't born in the year 1961. I'm just reading a website where it says he was born then. But if he was in a rabbinical college in London, 1966, to study in the Kollel, he must have been born way before even 1950, I would assume, probably in the 1940s, so there must have been a mistake over there. I think, so I'm not sure the exact date he was born. If anyone knows, please let me know. Now, in 1967, he would meet his future wife, Rabbinette Evelyn, in France, who was studying at the Beit Yaakov, I think maybe a seminary over there. Later that same year, they were married, I think, in London. Come on, 1976, he received his rabbinical ordination from the London Kollel, and he was certified as a shochet and a mohel, performing kosher slaughter and brit milah, circumcision, for Jewish babies. Now, he would move with his family to Colon, Panama, to fill the position of the rabbi of the Sephardic synagogue over there. It'll be a first, major role. These roles of progress. And come on, 1978, the family relocated to Bogota in Colombia, where Rabbi Ben Amu led the large and active Sephardic community as a rabbi and a shochet and a mohel. So he would spend that window of time in Colombia, in Bogota over there, for nearly 10 years we're talking about over here. So he was another great chief rabbi of Colombia in the history of Colombian Jewry also. Now, I think come on 1986, he would go on to move to North Miami Beach and become the rabbi of Bnei Sephardim Sha'arei Shalom. Now, I think there was an expansion of the congregation at a point in time, and the synagogue will be relocated to Hollywood, Florida. Now, the Bnei Sephardim Sha'arei Shalom is one of the largest and active Sephardic congregations currently in South Florida. And I think in more recent times, Rabbi Ben Amu was bestowed the title of a judge, a dayan. A judge is obviously a dayan. This was from the chief rabbinate, the Rabbanut Hareshit in Jerusalem. I'm not sure the exact year where this actually was. Now, I think they had him and his wife have 4 daughters, Rabbanit Ben Amu and him, and they have some grandchildren also. And I think recently, I'm not too sure how old this article is per se itself, but I think 2 of the children had moved at one stage to live in Ranana. I'm not too sure about the other families also respectively, or maybe many of them did or not. So he was one of the chief rabbis, I think, between the years 1978 to 1986. Now, everyone tuning in over here, we're doing a live video on the history of Colombia, the Jewish community of Colombia over here, exploring the synagogues, exploring the rabbis of Jewish history over here. So please, everyone that's tuning live, we've got as many as 112 people watching live in this community. Please, friends, subscribe now to the channel. We're trying to get to 7,500 subscribers, Bezrat Hashem, before Shabbat. Let's see if we can do that. We're only about 60 to go, friends, over here. Now, another chief rabbi of Colombia was a rabbi of the name Rabbi Ari Azankot. Now, I believe he was a chief rabbi between the years 1986 to 2000, the start of the 21st century, would seek his premiership. Now, it's interesting, he would actually study, I think, in the famous Shihabar Sephardic Center, obviously located in Old City, Jerusalem. I think they've just moved quite recently to Ramot. We actually recorded a video on the history of the Shihabar Sephardic Center, which I recommend everyone to look at. This was, I think in 1987, he would actually graduate from that rabbinic Talmudic college. And I think even currently, he actually took on the current role, the Bet Torah in Brooklyn, in New York, as a premiership, where he leads a congregation currently of more than 1,200 families. Now, why are we speaking about him? Because he was also a chief rabbi in Colombia, what we're speaking about today, I think between 1986 to the year 2000. Now, before he took on the premiership role, obviously, which he currently serves in Brooklyn, he would serve as rabbis in congregation in Barcelona, in Spain, and obviously in Bogota, in Colombia, over here, which we're speaking about today, where he was instrumental, I think, in these places, in establishing firm Jewish connections with many families over there. He will escalate the level of observance for many Jews, especially in Colombia, in Bogota, respectively. For example, he worked together with many, many different communities, especially with the Chabad rabbi, and was a visionary behind the establishment of a kollel over there. Let's say a Talmudic place where married people will learn and study Torah at a high level for a portion of the day, or if not the whole day, majority of the day. He would establish kosher kitchens there, make sure there was a high level of kosher options for the community over there, and kashrut options over there. I think in local hotels, he would make sure that there was, let's just say, in the local hotels over there, there was let's just say, an entire structure, Jewish structure, for all the kashrut facilities, respectively. He would create strong Jewish educational experiences for youth over there, which also, it's reported over, I think there was an SAM Flight 501 plane crash on May the 20th in the year 1993. And Rabbi Azankot was instrumental for raising money to organize flights to the mountain. He used helicopters and ropes to collect, unfortunately, 132 bodies, and they would separate them by faith, so that all 35 Jews on board the plane could have a proper Jewish burial. You can see the horrible, brings a tear to your eyes, to anyone's eyes, when such a tragedy occurs. But he was there instantly to really be a pivotal man, a pivotal rabbi, to help that very, very large scale tragedy that actually occurred in this flight crash over there. Now, another famous rabbi of Colombia, chief rabbi of Colombia, is Rabbi Shlomo Meir El-Hara. He was between the year 2000 to 2010 over here. We're going to speak about him now. Now, anyone tuning live, we've got a lot of people watching live. Please subscribe to the channel. We are nearing 7,500 subscribers here on our community. We do so much great Torah, Jewish wisdom content on this channel over here. So please subscribe now and hit the like button, join our community over here. And we want to get to 7,500 subscribers by just before Shabbat. So let's see if we can get to that phenomenal achievement over here. You won't regret it. We explore all over Israel, different archaeology, do tours all over Israel. Here on this channel, we have the most brilliant Jewish wisdom we bring about, and explore the Jewish history of diverse countries. We explore the Jewish history of Ethiopia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Kosovo, all these different places which many people won't really speak about. Okay, so another chief rabbi of Colombia was Rabbi Shlomo El-Harar. Who was he? He was actually the son of another great rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov Nissim El-Harar, who was a famous, I think, mohel, a rabbi that would perform Jewish circumcisions. I think there were many generations they actually came from of famous mohelim, of rabbis that performed circumcisions. That's actually interesting. I think Rabbi Shlomo Meir El-Hara, who became the chief rabbi of Colombia, was actually ordained to the rabbinate by Rabbi Yaakov Yosef Zecher Tzadik Livracha. If I'm not mistaken, he was the son of Chacham Ovadia Yosef, who was the chief rabbi of Israel between the years 1973 to 1983, respectively. Now, he was examined, I believe, Rabbi Shlomo El-Hara, in the famous Heichal Shlomo, a rabbinic college, and very interesting. Would learn Hilchot Shabbat, laws of Avelut, mourning, kosher slaughter, respectively Shechita, and Brit Milah, circumcision, respectively. He was had a very high. He was ordained to the rabbinate of the state of Colombia, and he would get rabbinic approval from great Sephardi rabbis in Israel. Chacham Ovadia Yosef, as mentioned before, who was the chief rabbi of Israel between the years 1973 to 1983. Another chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, who was a great rabbi. Rabbi Bakshi Doron, who I think passed away at the time period of the coronavirus in April 2020, was the chief rabbi also of Israel, that we have to point out. Rabbi Shlomo Amar also, he would give him a rabbinic approval. The famous Rabbi Batsri. Rabbi Batsri, the Batsri family itself are renowned, have done great kiruv outreach work and really perpetuated Torah with so many different institutions. He would receive rabbinic approval from him. I think he was also head of Jewish court, as we say, and Av Bet Din also. Another member of the Supreme Jewish Court who would give him an rabbinic recommendation was Rabbi Abargel, also another great rabbi, let's just say, in himself. Rabbi Elhara, become the chief rabbi, would also be certified as a mohel, as a rabbi that will perform circumcision, by the chief rabbinate and Ministry of Health in Israel, and he would get haskama from the famous Rabbi Shalom Mashash. If I'm not mistaken, Rav Shalom Mashash came from a line of great Moroccan rabbis. He was also the chief rabbi, I believe, of Morocco, interesting enough. Now, very, very interesting. He would not just serve as a rabbi, I believe, in Colombia, the state of Colombia over there, obviously for a period of time, for more than 10 years, in the very early 2000s. He was also a rabbi in communities of San Diego and California, and obviously was a chief rabbi of Colombia, as we mentioned about before. Really, really was a people's person, and really did huge amounts of things. I think he was very into matching people up in shidduchim roles. He matched many couples in of itself, and was really a people's person, and was able to connect with so many different people. So he was another chief rabbi over there, another important person. Now, there's a beautiful article, I think, given over by the famous Jerusalem Post, which also talks about the history of, let's just say, Colombian Jewry in of itself. So let's just read this over also. Everyone, once again, if you're tuning in live, please subscribe to the channel. At the moment, we're nearing 7,500 subscribers. This channel will do so much great Torah content, explore different sites of Israel, famous sites of Israel, and do so much Torah promotion, Israel promotion here. So please subscribe now and join our community. You won't regret it. Over here. Now, we're talking a bit about the rich heritage and culture of the Jewish community of Colombia. Obviously, we're going to speak about let's just say, a cuisine of theirs in a minute. But obviously, we've spoken about already on this video how the Colombian Jewish community is a mix, especially originally, of Portuguese, Turkish, and Spanish, and various Ashkenazi communities, very diverse. Well, we talked about how the Marrano Jews, the secret Jews, were forced to convert to Catholicism or be murdered in Inquisition. And they were the first Jews to settle in Colombia. The Marranos mentioned about how they fled Spain, Portugal in the 16th and 17th centuries, and many of them would settle in the northern areas of Colombia. I think it was known as the New Granada, as I mentioned about before, at that point in time. Now, most of these earliest Jewish settlers, I think, assimilated, unfortunately, to Colombian society. Some of them, I think, married out. There was observant Jews, as we mentioned before on the outset, that came from Jamaica and the Carol, and they would settle in Colombia in the 18th century over there. These Jews were not necessarily interested in assimilation, which was good, obviously, and practiced their faith, even though it was illegal at that point in time. So the Mesirat Nefesh they had for Judaism was absolutely phenomenal over there. And Judaism will eventually be legalized, as mentioned about before, and the Jews finally were able to open and practice. And obviously the Jewish cycle events they were able to do. The government would even give, as I mentioned before, the Jewish community a plot of land to use as a cemetery, as we mentioned on the outset. Many of the Jews that arrived, obviously, during 18th and 19th centuries, they were very successful in business and achieved great, let's say, prominent positions in Colombian society over there. We mentioned about how, in the earlier part of the 20th century, a large immigration of Sephardic Jews came from Greece, Turkey, North Africa, from Syria, and they would settle in Colombia. And large numbers of Jews obviously came in from Eastern Europe, I think after the rise, unfortunately, of the wicked Hitler in 1933. Reported over more than 7,000 Jews came from Germany and obviously we talked about how the Jewish population will grow in 1950s to 1960s. Now another opinion says currently there's 3,000 Jews concentrated in the big cities of Colombia, in Bogota, and it's actually reported over, I think the amount, but the size of Sephardic and Ashkenazic Jewish communities are pretty much equal, I think, in the entire country. It's 50-50. I think, this is at the time period when the article was written. I'm not sure when it was written. I think it was a few years back. Now it's interesting, the cuisine, the culture of Colombia, Jewish people. What was cuisine over there? Now the cuisine of the Colombian Jews is a blend of traditional Jewish recipes and local Colombian ingredients. Sephardic, Ashkenazi and German identities are very strong in Colombia, and the Jewish culinary tradition is very diverse. We all like Jewish food over here. My favorite actually is shawarma. Interesting enough, nothing beats that in my opinion. Colombian cuisine is full-flavored but mild, and not as spicy or complex as Latin American cuisines. This is what the Jerusalem Post actually gave an excellent article encapsulating this. Delicious, hearty cooking, and strongly influenced by peasant traditions, let's just say. They've got, I think, a special recipe. The Jewish Jerusalem Post will actually speak about it. There's a sancocho de gallina, a traditional Colombian chicken soup, interesting enough. Let's just say Colombia's Jews make this soup often. Obviously, it's easy to prepare, very nutritious and delicious. I'd assume this is a chicken soup they would have on Shabbat also, respectively. Also, that's an interesting cuisine. So to get a bit of Colombian heritage over here, I think that's very, very important. Now, friends, everyone, we're going to speak about the Shahaba Sephardic Center over here, which have really trained a lot of rabbis that actually came to Colombia in recent times. Now, just once again, friends, everyone tuning in, we've got 64 of you live. Please subscribe to the channel. We're nearing 7,500 subscribers, which is an absolutely phenomenal achievement over here. So please subscribe now and like the video. Let's get to this figure. Let's speak about the Shahaba Sephardic Center, Rabbinic College, has really tried to instill and promote rabbis worldwide, especially in Colombia. I think numerous rabbis have ended up coming to Colombia, and they have a strong relationship within Colombia. We're going to try and speak about the Sephardic Center itself in a few minutes, but they've trained and sent rabbinical leaders on the four corners of the earth, let's just say, and have really helped revive, let's say, dying communities, instilling Jewish practice, values, educating the Jewish community about their history, and have really prevented assimilation and has really ensured continuity. Who are the heads of the Sephardic Center? Rabbi Eli Shamola and Rabbi Sam Kassim, Rabbi Shlomo Kassim, also respectively. I think he's the chief rabbi of maybe the Bukharan quarter, if I'm not mistaken, also. Now, we're going to speak about Rabbi El Hara, who we mentioned about a few minutes ago. He had a famous, when he was the chief rabbi over there, I'm not sure if he's still rabbi in some position over there, a Teshuat Colombia program, which would actually help give poor families of Colombia, providing them food and clothing once a month. He was a key figure, as I mentioned before, about Rabbi El Hara, respectively, over here. So that's very, very interesting. Now, Colombia has evolved over the years, and there's always been new emerging communities that obviously provided rabbinical leaders. Once again, we're talking about the Shahaba Sephardic program over there, and have really brought rabbis into thriving Jewish centers. There's been highly accredited leadership programs, obviously, that has given the rabbis the skills in public speaking, helping people, train people that have been in substance abuse, philosophy, in psychology and family counseling. These rabbis have been trained. Many of these rabbis in this center, Sephardic Center, have become trained to become top shochets, kosher slaughterers, and mohels, rabbis that will perform circumcision, and have been able to sustain their rich heritage and provide for all their needs of all these countries, especially in Colombia. I think they've been able to help 100 additional rabbis and communities throughout the world recently. Now, the Shahaba Sephardic Center really has helped in Bogota, in community, respectively. Now, we know that we spoke about how Rabbi Shlomo Meir El Hara was a chief rabbi over there. I'm not too sure his current position over there recently, but we mentioned about how he was ordained by many of the great rabbis, and he was sent, I think, from Rabbi Sam Kassin to become the chief rabbi over there. Very interesting enough. He had strong ties with a lot of the chief rabbis in Israel, including Rabbi Obadiah Yosef while he was alive, Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu while he was alive, Rabbi Eliyahu Bakshi Daron, Rabbi Shlomo Amar, and received matters, let's just say, all his undertakings he did in South America, in Colombia, was taken under rabbinic advice from many of the top rabbis, respectively, over there, which is very, very interesting. So let's speak a bit more about the different excellent works that Rabbi El Hara did and the rabbinic structure of Colombia did at that point in time. Rabbi El Hara himself was very, while he was a chief rabbi there, was a vibrant, dynamic leader who really spread his influence, as to say, in providing for the development and deep interest and great observance, as to say, of Judaism in Colombia. He had a goal, let's just say, to bring a great number of Jews closer to their roots, capable of studying Torah in traditional, let's just say, sense and observing mitzvot. They would really keep with, let's just say the words, the famous prophet Malachi would actually say, maybe a statement, a pasuk, he would say, the prophet Malachi, what was his thing? To return the hearts of the children to their parents. That was a model that Rabbi El Hara will very much use, taking the wisdom of the prophet, the Navi Malachi. In Colombia, during his time period, there were 10 synagogues that served over 4,000 Jewish people and provided religious needs. Now, it's actually interesting, as we said before, I think before his time period, 8 years before Rabbi El Hara will take the premiership, obviously we mentioned how many Jewish people will come from all over the globe, especially from Europe and the Middle East. But I think at that point in time when many of the Jews will come, there'll be a loss of interest in Judaism. And Rabbi El Hara was at the time period where really the pendulum would actually switch, and there was a much greater thirst for Judaism. Now, he brought Rabbi El Hara, among the other rabbis at that point in time in Colombia, also through the help of the Sheba Sephardic Center, various religious functions providing for the community, especially in Bogota, respectively, the capital of Colombia. He would bring about more religious services over there, daily religious services, Shacharit, Mincha, and Arbit, I believe. Variety of Torah classes he will inject. Torah or lectures, respectively. Now he would build, I think, or many of the Colombian rabbis would build mikvaot. What's a mikvah, friends? It's a ritual, spiritual baths where people will come in, very, very important. Men's mikvaot and women's mikvaot, respectively. And he will also help establishing or strengthening the burial society over there. And he will really, as we said on the outset, will help with in regards to kashrut observance, kosher, laws of kosher. And he would help it grow tremendously during this point in time. I think a large kashrut division would be established, which was very, very highly developed, as we mentioned about before, with special efforts made to keep prices as low as possible. As many kosher products, I believe, were exported, I think, to the USA, Israel, and other countries. Very interesting. So there'll be a lot of trade going on over there, which was very, very important also for the Colombian community to keep its levels of kashrut excellent. Now, friends, anyone tuning in, we're exploring the history of the South American country, Colombia. So once again, just asking everyone, please subscribe to the channel at the moment and join our community. So please subscribe. Let's get to 7,500 subscribers ASAP. Now, among the outstanding projects which the community initiated and which could be imitated by other Jewish congregations is really, really tradition. A weekly Beit Midrash they would actually establish, especially with the help of the rabbinate over there. And let's just say, for religious students, there was a lot of religious students, with a serious background to Judaism. Now, it's actually interesting, they had close connection with Nel Elef, an organization which provides stipends for university students attending to the Beit Midrash. It's interesting, Nel Elef themselves also, as well as the Sheba Sephardic congregation, would actually help place Jewish rabbis in various different Jewish communities all throughout. Now, I think many rabbis would actually sign up over there, and I think 80 of whom became members of the Sephardic congregation in Bogota. Very interesting. I think many would also, that were connected to these organizations, I think 15 or 20 would become part of the community in Cali, in Colombia also. And now we mentioned about Rabbi El-Hara, which set up the Teshuat Israel. What's Teshuat Israel? It's like a hope of Israel. Teshuat Colombia, the hope of Colombia, let's just say. He would set up these charitable organizations which would provide needs for indigenous families, making families that were very needy, again, smile. I think as many as, at that point in time, many years ago, $100,000 in a variety of services and provisions for beneficiaries was distributed annually over there. Another organization called that Hamelech Shlomo, that obviously is translated as King Solomon. This is a society, let's just say, which publishes supplementary books for a deeper understanding of Judaism among the Jews of Colombia, respectively. And now another organization over there, also called Sharashim, which, let's say, is also known as Roots. It is obviously naturally translated. It's an institution in which provides lessons in Hebrew and in Judaism for adults, youth, men, women and girls, presenting the barest minimum of Jewish contact for those involved. The purpose, let's just say, is to reach as large a group as possible and draw them closer to Judaism without any pressure. So that's also very, very important, you could say, for imbuing people and getting people close. A few other organizations established in Colombia. There's an organization of the name Kesher, which means link in English. What is a Kesher? It's a branch of international organizations which fights assimilation and mixed marriages by providing opportunities for young Jews to contact each other. Very, very important over here. You need that infrastructure in many places, with matrimony as the goal. Now, Colombia itself is one of 16 countries involved around the world with this organization, obviously called Kesher, which is very, very important to point out. They have summer camps, actually was installed over here in Colombia, which would combine Jewish schedule with accepted daily camping experience. Very important to connect the Jewish community together. There was another project that was established in Colombia, which was named the New Project. What was that? I think it was actually started in recent years. It would actually be a project that would start after the Chagim, the high holy days, respectively, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, opening of the Beit Midrash, respectively, for members of the Jewish community, Talmudic hall itself. I think, very interesting, I think 2 couples will be guiding lights and lead in formation of Kollel, which had, I think, and still has, a huge influence upon all families in Bogota. And many of these programs conducted in highly sociable and inspiring atmosphere for those involved, especially bringing about full joy and friendship in of itself. So very, very interesting. So we can see the rich community and the heritage of the Jewish community of Colombia itself, respectively. How much has been achieved in Bogota in its time now. It's not the first South American country we're speaking about over here in this series. We also spoke about the famous country Peru quite recently, which we also have to point out. And we did also do other videos of rabbis that were famous rabbis in Colombia. So we spoke about Rabbi David Shurabani today. He was a chief rabbi, chief Sephardi rabbi, I think 1950s and 1970s, respectively. He was a famous rabbi of his time. And we spoke about other famous rabbis connected very much, let's just say, to the country Colombia also, respectively. Now, we spoke about the Sephardic Center itself, which has brought rabbis to Colombia and has really helped shape the Torah structure of Colombia, has many Jewish values, let's just say, to itself, not just in promoting Torah knowledge and living it in accordance with mitzvot. It reaches out to small, neglected Jewish communities and really accomplishes and helps, let's just say, Jewish people reach their heritage all over the world. They help with in regards to Tikkun Olam, taking care of the fellow man, and so on and so forth, with 100 more placements all across the world of graduates, at least, from all over different places. Not just in Colombia, they work in Bogota, Colombia. Remember, Bogota, Colombia is one of the main places which the SSC has helped across the world. They've also worked in Istanbul, Uzbekistan, Zagreb, Paris, Manila, and many other great countries with various different, let's just say, communities, which you also have to point out, which is absolutely phenomenal over here. So Rabbi, so in Colombia, in Botica itself was a very, very grandiose place in of itself, and how many Dayanim they've also produced over the years is absolutely phenomenal. Let's say a bit with regards to seeing that Sam Kassin, he did huge amounts, let's just say, and Rabbi Eliyahu Shamola, they were two integral rabbis, let's just say, of the famous Sephardic center that would really have, like, say, important roles. Another rabbi, I think, is Rabbi Ezra Kassin, who's been very involved with Colombia because he's one of the mashkiachs of the SSC and really helped just the structure of all these communities. I think he's obviously energetic rabbi, eloquent speaker we've had on this channel also before, and he facilitates communication among the students, especially even in Colombia, and he radiates a friendly atmosphere that draws students in itself, and he has many important roles. I think he learned in Porat Yosef and studied with Rav Sion Cohen, Rabbi Shalom Cohen, he would study under, and various other great rabbis also respectively. So that's an interesting point. Rabbi David Tuba Kelly was another famous rabbi of the SSC. Rabbi Reuben Levtov also. Rabbi Yaakov Peretz was very close to these rabbis, especially that were in Colombia and all these countries. Rabbi Yaakov Peretz was, just interesting enough, was a Talmid in the Ponevezh Yeshiva, if I'm not mistaken, and was a chief rabbi of Neve Yaakov. Before he passed away, he was a Rosh Yeshiva of the SSC, respectively, and helped guide the 250 rabbis. Some of them actually would be in Colombia, respectively. He was very well known for his Avat Yisrael, love for other Jewish people, and would personally test many of the rabbinic students. There was also other famous rabbis in the Sephardic SSC, including Rabbi Yosef Shushan, who was a Moroccan-born rabbi, and was, I think, part of the Israeli army, was a reservist for 25 years, and a graduate of the Bar Ilan University, who came with a lot of worldly knowledge and experience, let's just say, and brought to SSC. And Rabbi Eliyahu Shamola, who was very responsible also to the programming in Colombia with regards to these projects. I think he passed away, I'm not sure when, but he was actually born in Alexandria in Egypt in 1949, and he was one of the founders of this yeshiva with global outreach, let's just say. He spent the first years of his life in Egypt, respectively, and he would emigrate eventually to the United States of America, receive a degree in Staten Island College, and he would study in Yeshiva Porat Yosef, also in Jerusalem, for 5 years. He would receive his rabbinical ordination in 1977, and he worked in a beginner's program, I think in Esha Torah, and then eventually Rabbi Shamola would actually work at a company in Tel Aviv, so we get a work experience in of itself, and then Jewish education obviously being in his blood. So him and Rabbi Sam Kassin would end up starting the SSC in the old city, a yeshiva which grew phenomenally at that point in time, and really will spread its rings, let's just say, a great level, and also reach places like Colombia, which we're speaking about together. This rabbinical program, which has promoted many rabbis and the connection to Colombia at great rates, as we mentioned before, with regards to teaching Hilchot Shabbat, Kashrut, Shalom Bayit, circumcision, kosher slaughter, in a very strong way. I think the Dayanut program would actually start in the year 1994, which originally had 12 participants, and many Dayans will come and become prominent rabbis across the world, including, once again, in Colombia, that we have to point out also, so you can see the programmings that had been about, and very phenomenal, let's just say, in itself. And we've spoken about Rabbi Shamola. There was also Rabbi Sam Kassin, who we spoke about, who had a very, let's say, important role in the Sephardic center, which can't be underestimated. We've spoken about Rav Sam Kassin on various occasions in the city. I think we mentioned him also in about the video of the yeshiva of Rav Reuven Elbaz, if I'm not mistaken. That was also quite recently in another video, so I'd recommend everyone to look at that. But friends over here, we were learning about in today's video about the history of the Jewish community in Colombia over here. So it was a special edition over here. So if anyone that happen to be watching this video and you descend from Colombia originally, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information of what your Jewish community was like in Colombia. Were you under great rabbis over there? Did you have any famous cuisines, or so on and so forth? I'd like to know that. So please subscribe now to the channel. Let's get to 7,500 subscribers onto this channel. Now, friends, first of all, what we're doing on this channel over here, we record videos. First of all, we're doing a series here, as we can see, of the various different Jewish countries across the world, the rabbinic structures, the Jewish communities over there, synagogues. That's what we've explored about in this video today, exploring about the community of Colombia. We've already recorded videos on Afghanistan, places like Pakistan, Kosovo, Malta, so on and so forth, India, Gibraltar. So we're exploring that. That's one of the programs we're doing in the series. We also are exploring the life of great rabbis of yesteryear that came from many of these great countries. We've already recorded about 1,350 biography videos on famous rabbis of yesteryear, especially from the Ottoman countries, from the Asian countries, also from North African places, and from Spanish areas, respectively. We're like trying to become like a small mini English online encyclopedia, video encyclopedia, with the great Chachamim of yesteryear. So that's something that we're working on. Also, we're exploring what were the famous Talmudic academies in these countries, famous yeshivot at the moment, of current day, and also of yesteryear. So that's another thing that we are very much working on. We sometimes do videos, also separate videos, on the famous synagogues of these countries, also, but that's obviously included in these videos. So these are all, please, reasons why you need to subscribe to the channel, and just subscribe, and let's get us to 7,500 subscribers now, please. Other things we're doing on this video is we do tours all over Israel. We're exploring the beauty of Israel, let's say the rich culture. We do tours all over Jerusalem, especially in the historic parts, in Bet Shemesh, and in various other cities also. So check out the channel and see this. We also do short clips of interesting parts of Israel, where archaeological places and historic places, historic synagogues, for example, and different places to note in this beautiful country, which I recommend. It's all over the country. We do. We record a video clip every single day with an inspirational Jewish figure here of current day. Many, many great people we've got. They give over 2-3 minute video usually, a burst of wisdom to really empower our day and really give us some knowledge to make us excited. Also record videos on the weekly Torah portion, and within regards to the Hebrew month, we also try and speak about current Jewish topics also. So a lot to actually get inspired about on this channel. So many, many reasons. Please, if you can all subscribe to the channel and gain wisdom and join our community, that would be really appreciated. Usually these videos where we're exploring the history of the great countries of yesteryear end up to be much longer. It ends up becoming like, let's say, an hour plus. So these are much longer videos. And another thing I like to do on this channel is we explore different parts all over the how's it going? We like to explore the different countries all over the world. So usually when we record a video on the history of various different countries, they tend to be much longer than the shorter videos which we explore about the various rabbis of yesteryear. That's something else that we've got to point out over here. So very, very interesting. Friends, I think we're going to leave it over here. Just walk with you guys as I'm just going towards just a car at the moment, as like to travel, like to walk. Now friends, also one thing I like to do on this channel is to record a video at different destinations we are in at a time. So you can also, while I'm teaching you the guys great wisdom of Torah, Jewish wisdom, we can also experience Israel together, the streets of Israel together, and get inspired very much so. And see for ourselves this beautiful country, how we're coming in. Remember, they say that, we're talking about Colombia today as a country, but we've learned about many of the synagogues of Colombia, the kollels, the Beit Midrashes, the rabbis. All, they say at the times of Moshiach, all these Torah centers, all these synagogues in all these countries across the diaspora, including Colombia, they will be transported straight to Israel at the time period of when Bezrat Hashem Moshiach is going to arrive, Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach. So very, very interesting. And Colombia is definitely a place I'd love to visit at one stage in time. But an ambition would also to be speak about the Jewish community of Chile, hopefully we can do a video of that, of Brazil, hopefully in due course, of Argentina, and really explore these videos. Maybe even of Paraguay. I actually recorded with a rabbi from Paraguayan descent only yesterday here inside the series. So we're going to put that on the channel hopefully at one stage this week as another interesting tidbit. So it'll be good to record about all these countries, and definitely, yeah, try and connect. Maybe one thing, you never know, one day we'll be able to visit even some of these countries, maybe do a tour if the channel gets large enough. So that's why we're trying to grow the channel at the moment, so that the more subscribers, the more places we can go to, the more wisdom we can go over. So if you subscribe now, everyone watching over here, the goal is to end up maybe going outside of Bet Shemesh itself, explore the different synagogues, maybe go to the museums where these places are, where these countries are, and gain over the wisdom, garner over the wisdom of all the different places, which is very, very interesting. So that's another interesting tidbit. I'm so into the video at the moment, and with just the Jewish history, that I've actually just missed my car over here, so I've got to walk back the other way, which is also very, very interesting. So I'm actually recording this at the moment from the city of Bet Shemesh, Ramat Bet Shemesh Aleph. So if any of you happen to visit Bet Shemesh, please let me know. It will be good. One thing we do, as we mentioned before, we record tours all over Israel. So one of the things that we've done over here on this series is we've recorded probably about 50 tours of this beautiful city of Bet Shemesh, which is something also we also have to point out within regards to just this program over here at the moment. So I'm just coming inside the car at the moment, per se, as we explore Israel, friends. Everyone, thanks for tuning in at the moment. I really, really appreciate it. We've got so many people live. This is like, we don't usually get so many people that actually come here, over here. So it's very, very interesting. So it's always good to have a lot of people together, as I'm just coming inside the car. And just to add, because we spoke about Colombia today, just to add one more thing. If you look at the Stories of Tzaddikim section on the channel, you will see a video of Rabbi David Shurabani, who we spoke about today, was the chief rabbi of Colombia between the years 1952 to 1978. Also, what we did on this channel, if you recollect, we didn't just record a video with regards to Rabbi David Shurabani. We actually did a historic video of the history of the famous Shurabani family, also, which is very, very interesting. So I recommend everyone to go on the Stories of Tzaddikim section and actually see a history of the rabbinic line, because I think the Shurabani rabbinic family was well, it was a line of family. So it wasn't just Rabbi David Shurabani who became the outstanding, let's say, Sephardic chief rabbi of Colombia in his day. There was various other different great rabbis from that specific family in of itself. That was a chain of rabbis at that point in time. We spoke about Rab Shurabani respectively also inside this series, and various other different great rabbis. So that's something else that we've got to point out over here. So very interesting. I'm not too sure who the current rabbi of Colombia is, so that I did miss out at that stage in time. Obviously they're connected to the World Jewish Congress. Colombia happens to be as a country also, so they've got so it's obviously a very diverse community in itself. There's Chabad also, I think currently a Chabad rabbi. There's a Chabad rabbi everywhere across the world, so that's another very important thing to also point out, which maybe I didn't actually state here on the onset of this video over here. And yeah, very interesting. I'm just getting ready to hopefully in due course we can record another video on another great rabbi of yesteryear, hopefully in the maybe in the coming hours. But this was definitely a much longer video than we did. I think the video we did yesterday on Peru, we recorded a video of the history of the Jewish community of Peru. Remember, Peru also is another South American country, so that had much less viewers at that point in time. So I don't know why some of these videos will get much more people watching than some of the other videos respectively. So that is very interesting. So please, anyone that might have some wisdom or maybe might know a reason for this, please let me know also, so that we good to hear that also. So I'm recording this, as I said before, from Ramat Bet Shemesh Aleph over here in the city of Bet Shemesh over here, just like all these videos we do. Now I forgot to also say, friends, we also on this channel record videos on the Daf Yomi, daily page of Talmud. We do a short tidbit every single day with some wisdom from the daily Daf Yomi. So that's another very exciting project. We've already recorded on the Dafyomi about 1,000 videos, which is absolutely staggering at the moment. So that's just another very interesting thing just to point out within regard to that. So yeah, I think it's about time. I think I've spoken a lot already. We've spoken about the history of Colombian jewelry over here. We brought South America to Israel this morning, which is always exciting. Just recording this here from the streets of Israel. Just going to go to a Beit Midrash now, and just we're going to learn a bit of Torah over here today. So once again, asking a massive favor from all you fantastic people out there, please subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 7,500 subscribers now, and really educate ourselves more. So I'll leave you just with a few scenes of this beautiful city of Bet Shemesh as we're just walking over here, a special edition. This in a street called the Dolev Street, the famous Dolev Street here in this beautiful city. We're bringing Colombia to Bet Shemesh over here today. You can see some of the sights and sounds of this beautiful country of Eretz Israel. You can see parts of a sukkah now because we just came out of the Jewish festival of Sukkot just quite recently. Very interesting. So you can see we're right outside a synagogue over here in the city, and just experiencing the air. So just to conclude the video, we will explore. Maybe go inside the synagogue. I think there's a famous rabbi that's actually coming to speak inside the synagogue today, if I'm not mistaken, or nearby, which is very, very interesting. So we have to point that out. So that's interesting to see. Okay everyone, thanks for watching over here. Have a great day, and please subscribe to the channel. Thanks and take care, and watch over the previous videos we've done. Thank you.